I let you talk for a long time, so why don't you shut up for a second? So we've got all of these dead babies. We've got all of these dead babies that this monster doesn't care about.
I don't know what kind of a creature he is. He's a kind of low-grade thug, as far as I can see. He's listened to nothing I've said.
Yeah, I know, because I'm Muslim. That's what you call all Muslims.
I'll tell you. No, it's not that at all. It's not that at all. I just think that I think you're just a very low-rent racist. I'd urge you again, Cenk, leave your bedroom sometime and come to this region and see it for yourself.
Hey, I thought I was supposed to get the last word. This idiot's talking about bedrooms. Hey, you care about the babies, you care about the women, you don't care because you don't care about human beings.
All right, folks. Well, today, Cenk Uygur, or as we more affectionately know him by on this channel, Cenk Uygur, is going to give us yet another masterclass on how not to act, right? On how to not conduct yourself in a serious interview about a serious topic, especially when you at least claim to be a presidential candidate. And if you're at all familiar with the founder of the Young Turks, I'm sure you're fully familiar by now about when Cenk Uygur goes in rage pig mode and he just starts screaming, "We're trying to have a reasonable discussion," and he seems like he's gonna, pop a blood vessel. And it's very hard to take a guy like that seriously. Even if he is hypothetically making good points, which newsflash, he usually doesn't. He's Cenk Uygur after all. But even if he is sometimes saying things that are true, it's hard not to just sit there and laugh at the guy when he's just screaming about, "I'm Cenk Uygur, you're not a real progressive, you're a racist." And this has especially been true on the topic of Israel-Palestine, especially when he's come on Piers Morgan to debate about it, which we're going to react to, spoiler alert, here today. And look, I've said about the Israel-Palestine stuff before that I genuinely do think it's a complicated issue in many ways, right? I'm not very dismissive necessarily of the arguments of either side. There are some points of American foreign policy where I do kind of agree with Cenk, right, in terms of, the more non-interventionist view. So this is all to say, it's not that I don't have an open mind at all to taking Cenk Uygur seriously, but, he went on here today, just really demonstrated that he does a poor job of handling himself in these types of situations. And in this bombshell interview that everyone's talking about, Piers Morgan brought him and Douglas Murray, who is kind of a disaffected liberal, kind of a center-right type of guy, to debate the Israel-Palestine issue. And Douglas Murray, as we're going to react to here, absolutely rips him apart. But just to give you a little bit of context, I'm going to put together a short compilation of Cenk kind of turning into that rage pig mode before, so that we can fully enjoy the context of Douglas Murray ripping Cenk Uygur a new one. So here you go with that.
So that is why we have to all worry about what Hamas might do in regards to trying to... Hold on, let me finish the point. Let me finish the point. And what they might do if they had infinite power, the kind of power that Israel has. Meanwhile, Israel is actually doing the genocide, is actually preventing a Palestinian state and saying you are not allowed to exist, and if you dare try to exist, we'll kill 20,000 of your children and women.
All right, Douglas, respond to that.
Secondly, of course, you've just rattled off Hamas figures, as every one of your kind always does. Thirdly, you said that the world cried, you said. It is nonsense that the Israelis have prevented a Palestinian state. They gave the Gazans a Palestinian state.
Yeah, so you asked if he cared about 8,000 dead babies, and his answer was no. Queen Rania bothers me, so complete non-answer, because he doesn't care. He doesn't think that Palestinians' lives are worth anything. He just called them all terrorists.
Well, it's nice you can put that word
and this is what they always do.
There you go.
So hold on, I let you talk for a long time, so why don't you shut up for a second? So we've got all of these dead babies. We've got all of these dead babies that this monster doesn't care about. He says keep bombing them.
I think you basically get the point. As I reiterated again, it's not just a matter of I disagree with Cenk on the issue. To be totally honest with you, I don't even know necessarily what Cenk is saying on the issue, because again, it is so hard to listen to the guy seriously when he's acting like Yosemite Sam, like literally like a cartoon character on the broadcast. But with that said, folks, now we're gonna react to here today. Here is the point where Douglas Murray absolutely just tears him apart, and it's a sight to witness, to say the least. Let's just sit back and listen to it, okay?
I mean, your other guest, I mean, I don't know what kind of a creature he is. He's a kind of low-grade thug, as far as I can see. He's listened to nothing I've said.
Yeah, I know, because I'm Muslim. That's what we call all Muslims.
I'll tell you. No, it's not that at all. It's not that at all. I just think that you're
racist! Okay, I just had to say that because it's just so true. Okay, let's keep listening.
So yes, it's on Hamas this. As for seeing wars, by the way, I just mentioned about seeing wars because as far as I can see, you're very ill-traveled as well as rather ill-lettered and ill-spoken. And I mention that I cover wars and go to wars because I happen to think myself that it's worth seeing things with your own eyes, including things that you don't particularly like, but you report the truth. I don't know if you ever even leave your own bedroom. And I can tell already that you don't because you've already said something that demonstrates you know nothing about this conflict. You have just demonstrated it in the following terms. You said that this is why we need to push for a two-state solution and give legitimacy to the Palestinian Authority. I'll tell you something you don't know because I guess you spent no time in the West Bank, have you? I'll tell you something you probably don't know. The Palestinian Authority, Fatah, celebrated the 7th of October massacres. I'll give you another fact which demonstrates you know nothing about this and clearly haven't ever visited any Palestinians in the West Bank as I have. If there was an election tomorrow in the West Bank, the reason why there isn't one is because if there was an election tomorrow in the West Bank, Hamas would win. So your idea of a two-state solution, I'm afraid you are so out of date and you really should leave your bedroom. Because in this region, nobody thinks that there is a two-state solution on the table because there is not a viable negotiating partner. But I just want to make one other main point.
So, you know, as I've said before, actually in defense of Cenk Uygur, I understand his position on Israel and Palestine, right? I don't think he's a Hamas sympathizer. I don't think he's an anti-Semite. He may be something of a racist, but not in the context that it's often used, you know what I mean? But Douglas just tore him apart. Again, you know, as someone who does not necessarily have such a strong stance on this issue, it is just purely satisfying to see the rage pig get torn apart because, and I do think there's some truth to the idea. I have said before, the one thing I've said about Cenk's stance on Israel-Palestine is I think parts of it are a little bit naive. You know, the idea that, hey, if we just do a ceasefire tomorrow, that's going to solve the problem, right? Like, I don't think it's that simple. But I did appreciate Douglas just being like, you don't know what you're talking about. That was incredible, but it's not done, so let's keep watching this.
I've gone on and on tonight, throwing accusations out against the Jewish state, against me. It's the sort of thing you do. I know you're a sort of online pugilist and think you can run for office, and good luck with that. But I'd just like to point out that you only really get animated if the Jews are involved. And I can tell that for the following reason. I mean, your surname's Uyghur, isn't it? 1 million Uyghur Muslims in China have been put in concentration camps in the last decade. And people of your ilk never really care about that, do you? Because it's not the Jews doing it, it's the Chinese Communist Party. At the moment, 1 million people who are in Pakistan at the moment, who are your fellow Muslims and who happen to be Afghan, and I don't think you care about them, do you? 1 million Afghans are currently being forcibly deported from Pakistan to Afghanistan. You don't care about that. You're not riled up about that. You're not riled up about what the Janjaweed are currently doing in Sudan, where thousands and thousands of people are being attacked by the Islamist militia there. You don't care about any of that. You get exercised and you rile up what little base you have of malcontents because you're riled up when the Jews do anything.
All right, Cenk.
It's perfectly obvious.
Okay.
So again, I will reiterate in Cenk's defense on this. Although again, it was pretty savage. It was satisfying to listen to. I don't think it has to do with the fact that Cenk is some type of anti-Semite, right? I think it is true that a lot of people, left and right, are kind of more into the Israel-Palestine thing than maybe other issues that are going on around the world. If I were to guess, I think it really has more to do with the fact that kind of the history of the founding of Israel, you could sort of tie to like British colonialism and stuff, and to them, to the far left, like Cenk and all of the pro-Palestine crowd, it's kind of something of a traditional leftist oppression story of like, here's this brown group of people who are oppressed by a state set up by colonial powers, typical kind of class and race struggle that, they always talk about. So I think it has more to do with that, right? Again, I'm defending Cenk here. I'm not saying like I think he's an anti-Semite or he only cares about Israel because Jews are involved. But Douglas is pretty savagely tearing into him, to tell you the truth. And you can't deny that. But now let's listen to Cenk's response on this.
Cenk, your response.
Yeah. Okay, first of all, my last name is Uygur. We're named after the Uyghur Turks in China. And have we talked about that on the Young Turks?
I thought you'd spoken up then.
Yes. We've talked about it endlessly, but you don't know that, and you don't watch the show.
Shame nobody watches your show.
So
nobody does watch your show.
Yeah, well, okay, again, you're interrupting me, and I was kind enough to let you go on with your mad ramblings. So how nobody watches the show, we have 5 billion views a year. I don't know what piddling outfit you're on, or what little Substack or whatever the hell you write on. So the reason we're incredibly popular is we fight for all the main newspapers. We fight for We fight for all innocent civilians. So yes, we've covered all of those conflicts. Yes, I'm against fundamentalist Islam, no question about it. I'm against fundamentalist religions of all kind. In terms of every right-wing supporter of Israel, their only tactic is, hey, don't look at the 8,000 murdered children. Don't look at the 6,400 murdered women. Don't look at the fact that all the hospitals in northern Gaza have been shut down. Don't look at the fact that 4 out of 5 people in northern Gaza are starving right now, and half of the people in southern Gaza are starving. Instead, anti-Semite. Now, wait a minute. I just told you how much I want peace and security for Israel, how much I hated what happened on October 7th. What you don't know is I started the Young Turks with 2 Jewish friends. And so the whole program is both Jews and Muslims. You know nothing. I have Jewish family and friends. Why in the world? So I have shown empathy for all civilians throughout everything I have ever done. Hatred. Oh, he's an anti-Semite. Kill the Muslims. Kill the Palestinians. And once we kill them, by the way, we'll blame them for it. Israel had to murder all those babies in Palestine because Hamas made us do it. Then why are you listening to Hamas? Why are you letting Hamas drive your agenda? Well, you don't have to kill those civilians. It's a mass assassination factory.
So, again, brutal. Douglas really had him on the ropes there. And here's what I'll say in response, though, to what Cenk was saying. He was making a legitimate point. It's a point I've agreed with. It's a point I've defended people on in terms of both the left and the right, which is, just because you disagree with the politics of Israel or have a certain stance on this issue or that issue doesn't mean you're an anti-Semite, okay? So Cenk did make a legitimate point there saying, we should be able to have a reasonable discussion, to quote him, about this without calling each other names. The only problem with that, Cenk, is that that's what he does all the time, right? They're racist, you know what I mean? So I'm kind of being a good faith guy by saying, yeah, Cenk, you may have one stance on the Israel-Palestine stuff. I understand your viewpoint. I don't think it comes from anti-Semitism, whatever. But then on the flip side, right, if you in America stand up and take a stance on something like crime or immigration or any of these issues and you take the right-wing position, what does Cenk Uygur turn around and do? They're racist, it's that whole rant, or him and Anna had that whole rant in 2016 about how, Trump voters are deplorables and they're all the worst people and all that. And so it's a little bit of a double standard there. But yeah, on the context of this debate itself, Cenk conducts himself very poorly anytime he's talking about Israel-Palestine. And truthfully, again, as someone who, tries to understand the arguments of both sides, I, again, think it's a complicated issue overall. This is kind of a common symptom of the pro-Palestine left in many ways, right? Is that they can't get out of their own way. You know, when Cenk comes on and debates Douglas Murray, he just comes out and again acts like a fool, acts like a rage pig, and he did this on the other Piers, the times he's been on Piers Morgan. He does this literally all the time, and you look at that and have to leave that debate saying, okay, well, I heard one guy trying to have a debate. I heard another guy just being the Cenk Uygur rage pig that he always is. And it's not just an issue of Cenk, right? Look at the pro-Palestine protesters you see around the country, right? I again reiterate, I think most Americans probably have something of like mixed views on the conflict. They don't understand the conflict that well. Well, the pro-Palestine side, especially the pro-Palestine left particularly, does no favors when they block highways, they block roads, they just create a public nuisance for people, you know, or they wear like the Taliban headscarves, or they refuse to condemn anything that Hamas does, or, you know, they do this stupid stuff like queers for Palestine, you know what I mean? They just can't get out of their own way and can't not make themselves look like idiots. I mean, that's just the truth of the matter. And that's why I think in many ways the entire movement that Cenk is trying to represent here just can't get out of their own way and can't, you know, win over mainstream support. And that is honestly the truth. But yeah, again, don't agree with all of Douglas Murray's assessments there necessarily. Like I said, I don't think Cenk is an anti-Semite or anything like that. But he definitely did tear him a new one. Okay, and so I'll give Douglas Murray a lot of credit for that. And Cenk clearly had no response. He even resorted to the "I have Jewish friends" card, which was hilarious because that's usually what the left makes fun of conservatives for, is like, well, you claim you're you claim you're not racist because you have black friends. It's like, that's exactly what Cenk tried to do there. So it's pretty funny to see. But that's it, folks. Let me know your thoughts on this in the comment section down below. Do you think Cenk handles himself poorly in these situations? Let me know, and until next time, be sure to leave a like on the channel, subscribe if you are new. Alpha moves only. God bless, have a very good day, and peace.